Welcome to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. I'm your host, Brendyn Jones, joined as always with Nithin, Reddy, our producer, on this gloomy Monday evening in Champaign, Urbana. Nithin, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Excited that we got more and more football because yesterday there were a lot of good games.
Yeah, there were a lot of good games yesterday. I just left my apartment watching the Chiefs-Bills game that's right now, and then at 7 there's the Cardinals and Cowboys, which I think will be really interesting to see how Andy Dalton performs right now. But yeah, there's a lot of good football this weekend. Shaping up to be pretty interesting season. I know we can discuss that more later in the show, but I don't know. I'm very surprised, and there's a lot of things that I didn't expect. Right, like for instance, I didn't expect the Browns to lose to the Steelers. I didn't expect the Bears to really win. And I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff that I'm excited to talk about.
Yep.
But the most thing I'm excited to talk about right now is that it's game week for Illinois football.
Oh, yeah.
4 days from now, 4 days and an hour from now, the Illinois football team will be kicking off against Wisconsin in Madison.
You can almost taste it.
You can almost taste it. It is. It's very close. It's very interesting. I'm very excited. Under the lights Friday night, the first Big Ten football game. I'm very excited. For the last month and a half, we've had to watch every other college conference except for the Pac-12 play. Mm-hmm. And so it's finally good to see some football that's consequential to us at the college level.
Yeah, totally. And as sports fans, we do love college football. But to have your stake in these games, especially with the amount of storylines that we got going into game one.
I know.
Oof.
It's going to be wild. This really, we can do a deep dive for a preview on Wednesday. It'll be closer to the game. It'll be more fresh. We can do predictions. We can do all that. But I think it's just, like you said, there's a lot of good storylines going into Illinois football. You look at Illinois' offense, who right now is just a huge question mark because they just seem to have all this talent and potential and chemistry between everybody from the offensive line, from the receivers, from the tight ends, from the quarterback, maybe from this running back group. So this is looking to be an offense that could potentially be really, really damaging, which is something we didn't see really last year at a consistent basis. And then you look at the defense, which also has question marks, not in the good way, though, in terms of what can they do after graduating Dele Harding and Olawale Betiku Jr. But then you look over to this Wisconsin side, and they lose their best player in Jonathan
They have
Taylor.
even more questions.
Yeah, they lose their best player in Jonathan Taylor. They lose their best receiver. They graduate their best receiver. They have to start their redshirt freshman second-string quarterback because their starter got injured.
Their starter, Jack Cohn, who was actually really good last year when, in general, Wisconsin has game manager quarterbacks.
So it'll be interesting. I think the question mark that isn't there for Wisconsin, which is going to hurt Illinois, is their defense.
Yeah.
I think their defense is just always going to be good. I think they were third last year in the Big Ten. That's behind Ohio State, who's nationally great. And maybe Iowa or Penn. No, it was Minnesota, wasn't it? I don't know. There was one of those teams had the second-ranked defense, and then after that was Wisconsin. But yeah, going into this week, like, just how are you feeling that you're gonna be able to watch a football game at the college level that matters to you on Friday?
I'm gonna start by saying I don't expect Illinois to win this game because I think that's important to note. But I am still very excited, partially because we get this whole maybe Wisconsin-Illinois rivalry starting to brew. I mean, granted, Wisconsin's dominated for years, but you get Illinois winning in the most improbable fashion last year.
Yeah.
And now they're going into Wisconsin game one. It's exciting. Brandon Peters really is exciting me because it sounds like he's been doing great in practice, and it sounds like
worked with Kurt Warner over the offseason.
Yeah.
I saw that tweet, and I was like, wow, that's kind of cool.
Whenever you hear about these good quarterbacks working with other great quarterbacks, that's always going to excite you. But also the fact that he's in year 2 of this offense. He's now had 3 years of starting experience in the Big Ten. A lot of this matters. The receivers are really good.
Even if you think about it, like last year, he wasn't even on campus until like a month before the season started.
Because he wasn't great through the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And then he really, once the Illini went on that 4-game win streak, you saw him start to put it all together and have more cohesion with his receivers and chemistry, and it worked out.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited for Brandon Peters. Super excited for this wide receiver core that obviously is looking pretty healthy right now. You have Josh Imatorbhebhe, who is probably the offensive MVP last season. Then you have Donnie Navarro, who was a walk-on who earned a scholarship last year. Played really, really well in the second half, notably in Minnesota and against Wisconsin. He had a touchdown. And then you have like Trayvon Sidney, who's still really good. So you have, and then you look at, the tight end core. Last year you relied heavily on Daniel Barker. Now you're bringing in Luke Ford, who's been somebody you've been waiting on for the last year and a half, finally gets eligibility. So that'll be really exciting. Probably one of those players that you hope to send to the NFL in a year or two. And then you're looking at Josh Imatorbhebhe's older brother, who just transferred here as a grad transfer, Daniel Imatorbhebhe, who is a dude with great size, great athleticism. If he plays anything like Josh, it's going to be very exciting. I don't know. And then the offensive line, of course, is just so solid. One of the oldest offensive lines in the conference, and very experienced and very, very good. So I'm very, very excited about this team right now.
I am too, and I mean, we're not saying, as I said earlier, we're not saying they're going to win, but
I fully expect them to lose by at least 2 touchdowns.
Really? Okay, I didn't actually expect that, but I think it will be like a 10 to 7 point game, honestly.
Really?
Just because Wisconsin's offense has so many question marks. Granted, their O-line is every year unbelievable. It's one of the 10 best offensive lines in the country, which is what you need for a ground and pound team like Wisconsin. I'm not sure what we're going to see from these backs.
Right.
I'm not sure at all what we're going to see from their quarterback.
So here's what scares me about Wisconsin and this Illinois matchup, right? Illinois last year finished, I think, bottom half, at the lower end of the bottom half of the Big Ten in run defense. Which, of course, if you think about last year with Wisconsin, they had Jonathan Taylor, so that really would have hurt, and of course, that great offensive line. But they do have some questionable backs. I think his name's Nikhil Watson, who's a sophomore, got the second most carries behind Jonathan Taylor last year, and they're relying on this other senior. I forget his name right now. But their offensive line is really what scares me, because this defensive line, I don't think, is going to be as good as it was last season for Illinois. So that's the big question mark. And if you let this Wisconsin team just run all over you, it's going to be really, really bad. It's going to be a long game. And you're going to have to stop the run, and you're going to have, if they're going to beat you, you're going to have to let the redshirt freshman beat you in the air, because you have to commit to stopping that run.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a big Jake Hansen game, I feel like. 12, 15 tackles maybe.
Yeah, which is tough because Jake Hansen was the linebacker who you'd really rely on for turnovers. Where Dele Harding was the one you really wanted to see tackling. Dele Harding was, I think, one of the leaders in the Big Ten for tackling last season. Obviously, he's graduated. So you need Jake Hansen to step up. He's obviously had tackling issues in the past, which he's made up for tremendously with his turnover ability. But you're going to need to, really, really wrap up and be consistent on these tackles, because you cannot just go into a game where they're just going to run all over you. And then you're also going to need to force turnovers, which is a good sign, because this team obviously has a talent of that, and it's
they do, but that's getting turnovers is hard.
Right? Oh, it's hard. It's also very situational, right?
Yeah,
it's not something you could be let's get a pick on this play, because there's so many things that have to go into it. But there's also this quarterback who's very inexperienced. There's also these running backs who didn't get a lot of the offense last year because they just ran Jonathan Taylor almost every play. It seemed like, but yeah, I mean, this defense is going to have to show up if the offense is going to be able to really compete. And I think that's really where it starts. This offense, I think, is going to be really good. They're going to put up points. But if you just get run all over, it's not going to be a good game for them.
Yeah. So where do you think this offense is going to rank among the Big Ten if you had to put a number 1 to 14?
Well, passing last year, I think they averaged. I was looking at the stats this week.
I got the numbers.
I think they averaged just over 200 yards a game passing, right?
No, less than that, 185.
So 185 yards a game passing last year. I think that they could bump that maybe by 50 yards, 50 or 60 yards, average right around 250 a game. That should put them in at least the upper half of the Big Ten. I don't think they'll be there with Ohio State or Purdue, who has just a crazy pass game for no reason.
Well, they got good receivers.
Well, yeah, but it's just wild that because they're not as good. Their offense is crazy. Their passing offense is crazy, but that it just doesn't really result into success for them. But I think they could do around 250 a game. I think it'll be harder, and they won't have those games. They won't have games like against Akron and whoever to bounce or to bump their passing stats. So I think they can get like 250 a game in the Big Ten. That's what I'm seeing. So maybe top 6.
So if we're talking offenses, I feel like 5 or 6 seems about right. Ohio State's going to be better.
Yeah.
Let's see. Minnesota's going to be better.
100%.
Penn State's probably going to be better offensively.
You'd have to expect.
Then is kind of where I'm not saying Illinois is 4th.
I think Purdue is up there too.
Yeah, you got the Purdue,
I think 5,
Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan. I forget about Michigan.
Michigan State potentially. Like there's a lot of these fringe teams. So I think somewhere in that 5 to 7, 5 to 8 range is probably likely where.
And that'll be good. I mean, for them because they finished 10th last year.
Wasn't great. I mean,
something in that bottom barrel of the range. So, I mean, that's really what they have to do because this defense, as we saw last year, they weren't really great at stopping the run. They weren't great at stopping the pass. They were just really great at forcing turnovers. Obviously, that's a very situational thing. We talk about that all the time. You can't really replicate that year from year. So what's really going to have to come down to it is can this offense continuously put up points? Because the defense, I think, is going to let up quite a few points throughout the season, especially when you have to play Ohio State and Wisconsin and Minnesota. So it is what it is, but I think this game is going to have to answer a lot of questions because there's just a lot of stuff that we don't know.
Do you really think that, though? Because I feel like there's just going to be question marks throughout the first 4 weeks. I mean, because we just don't know what we're going to see.
Well, I think there'll always be question marks, but I mean, like, we really
more
don't
than that
know.
This year because it's a season where you didn't expect to have a season to start with. Then it got pushed back, and it became an October season.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the first, maybe not 4, maybe 2 weeks is going to be a real.
I just think we still don't know how good this offense can be. Yeah. And if they can show that this week against a really good Wisconsin defense,
that is true.
It'll answer a lot of the questions that we have, right? Because if you can go out there and score a lot on Wisconsin, then you're not really worried about, the Maryland game or games like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But we'll obviously deep dive into that. But I don't know. It's just a really good feeling to be able to talk about Illinois football because, I mean, we've had to do this radio show for the last 2 months basically with really no Illinois sports. So I'm glad that we can finally bring that content to you guys and bring that because I miss talking about Illinois football.
And just as soon as you can imagine, basketball is going to be back, and then we're going to get in the spring, and the ball's going to start to get rolling.
It's going to be wild for content in the spring because they're trying to push back all the fall sports to the spring. So that means volleyball, wrestling, cross country, track, soccer, all that is going to be there. So it feels like we'll always have something good to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Definitely.
I'm excited, but that'll lead us into our first break. We'll obviously recap or preview Wisconsin game a lot more on Wednesday, deep dive and everything. But when we come back, we'll talk about the Bears this weekend. We'll talk about the rest of the NFL. So stick with us on Illini Drive 107.1 WPGU. Welcome back to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. So, if you've been listening to the show at all in the last 7 weeks that the NFL season has been active and we've been talking about it, I, every week, have not been a Bears believer. Every week, every single week, I said, you know what? They probably shouldn't have won that game. You know what? This team shouldn't be 3-1. They should be 1-3 at best.
I'm liking what I'm hearing so far.
These last 2 games, Nithin. Last 2 games.
Oh, yeah.
The first 4 games all seem very fluky.
That is
just very like, oh, wow, like really? Like you're going to let the Bears come back on you like this?
Yeah.
Atlanta, Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? Like if Saquon Barkley hadn't got injured, the Bears would have lost that game. But now that I'm looking at how they handled Tom Brady last Thursday, I'm looking at how that defense performed against Carolina, where they reality should have had 3 picks. that Eddie Jackson was taken back. And they had a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. Could have been scooped and scored if Eddie Jackson picked it up and not Akeem Hicks. I'm a believer.
Yes, let's go.
I'm a believer, and I'm going to tell you why. Because last night, I watched, and
I think
Tom Brady had a really bad game when he played us, right? Pretty bad game when he played us, and he had a phenomenal game last night. All his receivers, Gronkowski looked like it was.
He had a good game. I wouldn't say phenomenal.
Gronkowski looked like it was 2014 out there, right?
I'm going to pull up his numbers, but they were like...
It seemed, I don't know, it just seemed like a good Tom Brady game, right? And I didn't think against us, it wasn't a good Tom Brady game, especially in the fourth quarter. But I saw a Packers team who I just found out last night that all of their undefeated wins, every team they played had a combined record of 4-12.
Oof.
And I see them play their first good team of the season and just get demolished.
Yeah.
No, Aaron Rodgers was nowhere to be found anywhere after the second quarter started.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked so good. At the end of the second half, Ndamukong Suh was bullying Aaron Rodgers. And I loved every second of it. And I'm thinking to myself, is this defense going to bring us back to the playoffs? And if so, is Nick Foles the quarterback to lead us to a playoff run? Now, I don't know.
Okay, now are we going to flip roles now? Or I'm going to be the realistic one. You're going to be the optimistic.
Nithin, I am so just fascinated by this team because it seems like, and maybe it was Nick. Did you see Nick Foles' post-game speech?
Yeah, I saw that.
If you didn't see it, watch it because that man made me a believer. That man made me a believer because I watched it as the Buccaneers were beating up on the Packers, and I was like, you know what, Nick, you're right. Great teams find a good way to
snaps,
win, right?
And everything.
He said this thing. He said, bad teams win in pretty ways. Great teams find good ways to win. And that's the Bears team. And this could all be disproven in the next 3-4 weeks because they have a tough schedule. They have a tough schedule. I'm not going to lie to you. But if they beat the Rams who've been playing pretty well these last 3 weeks.
Although they did just lose to the Niners, who haven't really looked.
That is true. They did not play well yesterday. But other than yesterday, the last 2 weeks, I don't know. I think I'm ready to say this team because I was a solid 10-6 this weekend. I think they could win the division. And I don't know if I'm just too optimistic.
Okay, you're drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit too much.
I'm chugging right now. But I don't know. I just felt really good on this Monday. It's been a really good day. I had some coffee this morning. I don't know. It's amazing. I'm feeling really good and I'm believing in my Bears right now. So it is what it is. I could be in a totally different wave if they lose in a bad fashion against the Rams. But right now I'm feeling it. And I'm feeling this team and I'm feeling the grit and I'm loving it. And it looks like they're having fun again. It looks like 2018. How do you feel about the Bears, Nithin?
Okay, so I do feel optimistic about this team. And I felt good, especially just the fact that they have a 5-1 record. Realistically, to go 5-5 the rest of the season, 500,
right.
You're going to be 10-6. You're going to be fine with that, and you're going to make the playoffs with that. The thing where I'd push back is the offense still has a lot of concerning parts with me.
They do.
I like what Foles does at the line because he makes all these adjustments. He finds the easy throws. I'm waiting for him to start throwing downfield more.
That is fair.
Because it's a lot of checkdowns. His yards per attempt, I think, is like around 5 yards, which is, I'm pretty sure, worse than Mitch.
Probably.
That's not good. But he does a lot of things right. The running games, which has struggled a bit the last 2 weeks, did a good job at closing out the last game and chewing up clock. What I really like with this team is the defense. The defense seems like they're getting very close to 2018. And like they're starting to get turnovers. Khalil Mack looks like he's
getting
back.
pressure.
Yeah.
They're getting pressure to the quarterback, which is what we missed last year.
Yeah, we saw it in the Tampa game, and there was like some concerns about, all right, maybe it's just the Tampa O-line. We saw it again with Carolina, where Teddy Bridgewater was definitely under pressure and had to scramble a couple of times. He probably could have been sacked 3-4 times. I don't have the exact amount in front of me, but he was pressured a lot. And as a result, he forced some bad throws, and the Bears took advantage of it. That's what you want to see. The secondary has looked pretty solid. The rush defense, it has its ups and downs. Overall, I feel good about this team. My real concerns are, though, that what happens when the defense gives up 26 points?
Right.
Because granted, we've seen that a little bit, but it's been fluky runs. It's been against the Falcons. It's been against the Lions. Outside of that, the Bears, I don't think have scored more than 23 points in a game this entire season, which isn't a good sign. These next 3 weeks are so vital, though, because you got Rams, Saints. Granted, neither of those teams have looked perfect, but I still think they're good teams.
Right.
And then you got the Titans, who have looked really, really
I'm chalking
good.
that up as a loss.
I mean,
already.
Yeah, that's fair, but
Especially what Derrick Henry did yesterday.
I think the goal for that 3-game stretch is, can we get to 2-1?
Mm-hmm.
We can get to 1-2, and I'll still feel
yeah.
like pretty good.
You have to
but
win
2-1.
games.
2-1 is the goal going into these 3 games. And then you got the Vikings next week. You have to win that game.
Yeah.
You just have to at this point.
Looking at that 3-week span, which team do you think the most likely win comes from? Because I can see it with the Saints because they've just been very, very inconsistent. But I wouldn't say it's the Saints. I'd still say it's the Rams.
Yeah, it's tough because the Saints haven't looked good, and Drew Brees especially has looked pretty bad so far. And the Rams have Aaron Donald in that great D. But I really actually like that Saints defense. So
yeah.
I think I'd probably
also,
say the Rams would be the easiest.
Yeah. By the time we play, Michael Thomas hasn't played since week 2, I don't think. By the time we play them, he'll definitely be on the field, you'd have to assume, and has at least had one game to get kind of that his step back.
I think he said he's coming back next week.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I mean, obviously he was suspended that one game because he punched somebody in the face.
Which, the whole Michael Thomas, ever since they got bounced in the playoffs, he's had this weird year.
It's weird, but I mean, obviously you wish the best for him to come back. But yeah, I think that Saints is going to be a good game. I don't know if the Bears have enough to win that because that Saints, as you said, the defense is really good and their offense is just, I mean, its potential is insane.
I'm fully not bought in, though, on the Saints offense.
Yeah, not bought in, but still, when you have all those weapons, it is what it is. But I think they can beat this Rams team. I think the last time, anytime the Bears face Jared Goff, they kind of put him in a corner and they make him do things like throw the ball to interceptions and stuff like that. The defense obviously scares me when you have that much talent on defense, but I think the Rams is the one you're really looking forward to be 2-1. I think the Titans, obviously Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry, and Tannehill has been playing out of his mind.
You can still win that game, though. I know you don't have much faith, but the Texans almost beat them. The Texans don't have a win, right?
They have one win, don't they?
They won last week?
Because the only winless team is the Jets. So they have one win.
Okay, so a team that has one win.
I think they beat the Vikings.
They beat the Jags.
The Jags. Because the Falcons beat the Vikings. But
and they needed the Titans needed an insane performance from Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. So I do think there are winnable games. If you can get 2 wins, that tells me they're a legit contender.
How you feeling if they go 3-0?
Oh, I'm going to be drinking the Kool-Aid just as much as you. But the thing is, the only way they go 3-0 is if Nick Foles really understands this offense. He goes 260 yards per game, 3 TDs. Okay, let me put it. So 3 games, 8 TDs, 2 picks max. Dave Montgomery's getting some yards and the defense is playing great. That's the only way they go 3-0.
This is my argument to say that Nick Foles can do that, is that this past week was only his 3rd start.
Yeah.
Obviously, he looked the best in the Falcons game coming in the 4th quarter. But it's just hard when a whole new quarterback comes in for a defense to adjust to that, especially a defense that's not as good like Atlanta's. I think that he could obviously step up to that. There's been moments in this offense where he looks really comfortable and he looks to know what he's doing. So I think he can get there. It's nowhere near realistic that they go 3-0, but if they do, I don't know how I'll be feeling. You know what I mean? It's just insane to think about.
We're going to be doing snow angels without snow outside. I mean,
by then there might be snow. It's cold today.
Hey, wait, I got to ask you about that. That reminds me. Do you like this weather? Because I love this weather.
It varies, right? So when it's super cold.
Well, I'm talking specifically today.
Like today? It wasn't terrible. I can do it. I much rather like
That
like,
does not sound very happy.
like a 70, and I'd much rather like a 70-degree day. But I like putting on sweats in a sweatshirt. But I hate the snow.
Ooh,
I'm not a
really?
snow fan because I just feel like it's really overrated. Like there's
Wow.
what's
Oh my
great about
God.
snow?
It's
You can do
it's
snowball
aesthetically
fight.
pleasing.
Not
it's fun to hold.
It's
You
only
don't
aesthetically pleasing for like the first hour, and then when cars start driving, it's really ugly outside.
Okay, the sludge isn't aesthetically pleasing, but just like if you're walking through grass and it's like a field of snow,
And your feet get cold.
just walk on the sidewalk then. Where it's
I don't know.
shoveled.
I think snow is so overrated. I think
Brendyn, I don't want to beef with you. I don't want to beef with you.
all right, we can agree to disagree. But yeah, I think I'm excited about the Bears, but looking, through the rest of this past weekend, the Texans-Titans game, we mentioned it a few times, was just crazy. Derrick Henry has been doing things like that 94-yard touchdown, which is, I think, this is just my random thought about the NFL. Like, I think it's wild that we only count the yards from scrimmage because he was like in the end zone when he got the ball.
Yeah.
And he wasn't obviously touched. Like he didn't have to break a tackle behind the line of scrimmage, but Derrick Henry ran 103 yards on that play.
Okay, yeah, I see what
And was touched one time. And the thing that always
Are you saying it should be counted? As
No.
100 yards
I don't think it
rush,
should be
or-
counted.
Okay.
But it's a 94-yard touchdown, but in reality, he was playing for 103 yards.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, the thing that always surprised me about Derrick Henry, 6'3", 230, is how fast he runs.
Yeah.
Those were safeties chasing him, and they had no hope to catch him.
Yeah.
He could have kept running for another 50 yards, and nobody would have caught him.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry's wild. I don't know how you stop him. I don't know how you go tell.
We talked about his high school highlights.
Yeah, insane. I would have faked sick.
Yeah.
I'm not getting run over by Derrick Henry for 4 quarters. And then the Ravens-Eagles game, I didn't see that game, but it looks like it was more close than I thought it was.
Yeah, I caught I'd say the last 5 minutes of
The
it.
Eagles make it interesting at the end.
Yeah, it was a blowout throughout. It was
That's what I
17-0
thought,
at half,
yeah.
and then Wentz started to deal.
Ooh.
And he led them to so they're down 8. He led them on that game-tying drive, but they didn't get the 2-point conversion.
Hate to see it.
Yeah.
Wentz has obviously looked shaky this year, but he's had to deal with injuries. And when
What do you think of Wentz?
What do I think of Wentz?
Yeah.
I think that it's hard when you deal with that many injuries because his peak, which was in 2015.
Was that a borderline MVP season?
Yeah, borderline MVP season. He was really good.
Yeah.
He was really good. So we'll have to see. I think you should probably give him the rest of the season to see where it's at. But also, I think that's why you drafted Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts can be.
Ooh.
I love Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts.
I did too, but
Who leads 2 different college teams to the playoff?
yeah.
Nobody's done it before, and
And he's the reason why basically he was there 3 times or 4 times? He was there 4 times.
4 times. And I think he gets a bad rap because he was also benched in the game for Tua, who came in and won it. But I don't know. I think he's a great quarterback. I
wanted the Bears to draft him in the second.
Yeah, I kind of wanted him. I'm very solid with our second-round draft picks, though. So I can take that. The Falcons-Vikings. Falcons finally got a win. Julio was out last week, and I forgot to put him on my starting lineup for fantasy. I almost cried yesterday.
Ooh.
That hurt. Steelers and Browns. This is a game I want to talk about because the Browns did it to us again. They tricked us.
Did Gabby trick you to talking about this?
No, I told her I was wrong. I'll admit when I was wrong. And I feel duped because the Browns do it all the time. They'll trick you into thinking they got something.
Are you out on the Browns?
I'm not out on them,
Okay.
but it's like you can't put up 7 points with the offensive talent you have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's sort of a mental thing at this point because they dominated in 4 games and they beat a
That's what
really
I'm
good
saying.
Colts team where they were just phenomenal in that game. Then they lose their 2 consider rivals, but it's like big brother and then younger brother.
Right.
And the Ravens and Steelers are just the heads of the AFC North for a reason. And I'm wondering if it's just something where they're not ready to get over that hump quite yet.
That's tough.
Also, the O-line for Cleveland was horrible.
Yeah,
The entire game.
it was bad. Bengals and Colts. Colts came back to beat the Bengals because I think they were up 17-0?
21-0 or something?
Might have been 21-0. Lions, Jaguars. Lions got to win over the Jaguars. I can't wait to play the Jaguars. I'm very excited for that.
Gardner.
Giants beat Washington football team. Broncos over Patriots. Did you watch that game?
I had Red Zone on my computer, so I was
Yeah.
catching a little bit of it, but I saw so many turnovers by the Pats.
Was it?
Yeah.
That's tough. You know Belichick doesn't like that.
Oh, yeah.
Jets get beat up again by the Miami Dolphins.
So they're probably in line for the number 1 or number 2 pick at this point.
Hate that.
Which really makes it interesting about if they're going to draft a quarterback.
Why haven't they fired Adam Gase yet?
I'm wondering if they're just waiting till the end of the season, or maybe it's like a thought-out tank where they just don't think they're going to win.
I think about that a lot, actually.
And
I'm actually happy you said that.
Yeah, let me just lose some of these games, and
That's
then we'll get Trevor Lawrence.
Because it's like
Fields.
you trade away Jamal Adams, and then there's no expectations of the season, and it's like, why not tank? You know, and you can't just go out and say, okay, we're going to tank, because obviously the league doesn't appreciate that.
Yeah.
And will come down hard on you.
And they can't blame you for not firing your coach.
They also cannot blame you for not firing your coach. So that's actually interesting. I just I don't know. But the Jets I've never seen in the past 3 years the Jets be promising though. So that's like, I think they should fire Gase anyway. So it's like, why wait?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see.
I feel like he's going to have like a Todd Bowles like career where he'll become an offensive coordinator, be really good at that, and then get another position, be terrible, get fired, and it's going to be like this cycle where eventually he'll just be out of coaching. But
obviously that game last night, Packers and Buccaneers.
I hope Nathan DeHaan's listening to this right now.
I hope he is. He's probably. I don't even know. I thought he was still in Champaign. But
he is.
He is?
Yeah, he's
I hope he gets this. Nathan, I miss you. I miss sitting across from you and talking. But I loved every single second of Aaron Rodgers getting bullied by this defense.
Let's say, the last 45 minutes, because they were up 10-0 on that first quarter.
Yeah, they were up 10-0.
Then the 2 picks happened, game's over at that point.
And the thing is, like, so I have a whole bunch of friends from Wisconsin.
Okay.
And I'm very hesitant anytime the Packers play to try to trash talk with them.
I totally agree with you.
Because I remember when I first started doing it, it was my freshman year with 2018. The Bears played the Packers opening night.
Oh, God. Don't bring up that game.
Right, exactly. And we know what happened in that game. Aaron Rodgers goes out with an injury, comes back in the
Brendyn, we don't need to hear.
Anybody that didn't know.
We don't need to hear.
You know, anyway. So I think at halftime they were down 10-21.
It was more than that. It was 23-0.
20. Okay.
Where are you talking about?
I'm talking about at halftime.
Are you talking about Bears Packers, or are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about the Buccaneers now game.
Yeah,
So I always have faith in Aaron Rodgers to come back and just play like he's like the perfect player in the second half if he has a bad first half. And I was waiting for it, and it just never happened. Yeah. And it gave me so much joy because it was like, man, he's human. Anytime he plays the Bears, he's not human, but he's human, and he was human that day. So I love to see that. And then playing after that was the Rams 49ers. 49ers are very...
I don't know what to make of them.
I don't know what to make of them either.
I don't know what to make of Jimmy G, because I'm pretty sure they can cut him soon based on the guaranteed money.
I think they would.
And he's not been that good, but then...
They gave him so much bread.
They did, but I don't know if there's a ton of guaranteed. I think it was like $50 million. I'm looking it up right now. But basically, like, what do they do if Jimmy's just this inconsistent? Because last week they bench him, and then this week he was great against a really good Rams defense.
Probably just got to ride it. I don't know. I feel bad for the 49ers. They obviously got hit hard with injuries in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I think you just got to ride it out. There's so much talent on that team that it's hard. You never want to be like, well, let's just try to cut our starting quarterback and do whatever. You know what I mean?
Because he's got only $2.8 million dead cap hit. So if they wanted to next season, they could very easily do it.
But I'm just like, at that point, who would you pick up that knows the system?
Jameis?
I want Jameis to get picked up. I have faith in Jameis.
Oh, God, I have no faith in Jameis.
Yeah, and then the Chiefs-Bills game right now.
I think the Chiefs just fumbled. They're up 23-17. I think
it's the second time they fumbled. Edwards-Helaire fumbled?
Oh, no, his knee's down.
Oh, good.
But it would have been a big fumble because...
how much time was left in that game?
I think 5 minutes.
Well, because Travis Kelce already fumbled.
Yeah,
I don't think they scored on that off that though.
They had a field goal shot. I didn't miss that.
Oh, and they missed a field goal.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like a 45, 50 yarder, missed it.
Okay.
And the last thing I want to talk about, we'll see obviously today the first full game without Dak Prescott, obviously suffering that horrific ankle injury that happened last week. But I think in terms of backup situations,
pretty good.
The Cowboys should feel comfortable that they don't have some of the other backups in the league. You have Andy Dalton, who was a starter last year, probably could start on a few different teams. So, yeah, you got to ride with that. Their defense is still obviously questionable. They still have turnover issues, which I think is just going to be more highlighted with a backup quarterback. But you really have to lean on the offensive talent that they have. You still have CeeDee Lamb, you still have Amari Cooper, and you still have Ezekiel Elliott. So I don't think there's need to panic for them, and they're in a division where it looks like you might be able to win with.
Their division is outside of Dallas is 3-14-1.
Yeah, you might be able to win the division with 9 wins.
You might be able to win it with 7. I'm not even.
Yeah, you're not exaggerating at all. So they should feel good to get to the playoffs and hopefully still. But obviously, that's just so tough. You hate to see guys go out with injuries. But what do you think about the Cowboys and their future this year?
I think they're going to win the division. And I don't even know if, as I said, I don't know if they'll make it to 500 because this defense is horrible. It's one of the worst in the league. They got a ton of weapons offensively, and their O-line's still pretty solid. But Andy Dalton didn't look good at all last year. I'm not saying he can't go out there and win, but I wouldn't feel great if I was the Cowboys. Basically, based on what you saw already from this season, that Dak Prescott had to put insane numbers up, and you were still losing games.
Yeah, it was very. I don't know. That team is a lot of question marks. I think that defense just gets torched a lot, and obviously the fumbles and interceptions have not helped them at all. But I don't know. I don't know really what to make of them. But on the other side of the field, you have Arizona, who their offense. I know their offense looks really good. Kyler
throw to anyone but DeAndre Hopkins tonight. That's what I'm asking.
I have Kyler in one of my leagues, and DeAndre Hopkins, I'm going against him in another league. So I'm fine with that.
All right, cool.
Make it a Larry Fitzgerald game.
Yeah, let's get Christian
Kirk. Let's have 150. You know,
Andy Isabella, maybe get involved. Kenyon Drake a little.
Get Kenyon Drake because I know people hate.
Know what? Actually, scratch all that. Get like 4 rushing TDs. Don't need to pass.
That's true. Yeah, Kyler, get 4 rushing TDs. That's all I need from you.
It's not out of the question with Kyler.
No, he's so fast. He's so quick. So hard to tackle. But yeah, that'll lead us to our last break. When we come back, the World Series is set to start this week. So we'll get into that a little bit. Tampa Bay and LA Dodgers. And then we'll talk about a little bit of the Bachelor at the end of the show.
Ooh,
but
okay.
Stay tuned. This is Illini Drive 107.1 WPGU. Welcome back to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. World Series starts now. Greatest time. It's weird because like there's just been a lot happening in terms of sports. It's kind of like there's like sports overload in the last 3 months because from March to July we had like 0 sports, and then it all just kind of came back to at once. But don't let it go under the radar. There were 2 7-game series in the NLCS and ALCS. There were 2 very good with a lot of good storylines. But this obviously Tampa Bay and LA advanced. Tampa Bay beating what seemed to be baseball's just worst enemy. Yeah. Baseball fandom's worst enemy. It probably will be for the next 5 years until everybody in that organization is just revolved. But so it'll be interesting. The storyline that I always hear with Tampa Bay, and now they're making it again with the Dodgers, is the salary of Tampa Bay. And then,
Tampa doesn't have a big salary at all.
Right. Tampa Bay totaling, I think, just under $30 million. Right now, the Dodgers, I think it's like just over $100 million. And it reminds me of the movie Moneyball.
Ooh.
Because
that's my favorite movie.
Really?
Yeah.
It just got on Netflix.
Yeah. when it went on Netflix, I was actually pretty pissed because
You
bought it on my
Mhm.
computer.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is my movie I watch whenever I go on planes and stuff.
Exactly. I haven't watched that movie in probably since it came out.
Oh my god!
So I'm gonna rewatch it. I know.
That is a crime against humanity right there.
Well, my roommate JJ has already asked me to watch it with him, so I'll probably watch it with him sometime this week. But two different teams in terms of how they pay their players, and the youth of Tampa Bay, and then the Dodgers, who've kind of always been there but not always made it, as we've seen with the Dodgers finally getting back in that World Series, and it'll be interesting. Nithin, as the the contract correspondent for the Daily, or
I'm gonna have to go into it then.
For Illini Drive.
I'm cool with being that.
Yeah, we talk about it.
Yeah.
One, what do you make of Tampa Bay's success on such a low payroll? Two, obviously, is it sustainable? That's usually a no in sports. And then three, just who are you feeling out for this series? Like, who do you think big performances are, and what are your predictions before?
So I think the easy team to pick is the Dodgers, just because they have all the names. They got Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, Justin Turner, Corey Seager, Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Dustin May, all these incredible players.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that Tampa does really well is that they've got a great bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
And their bullpen, they use them very early, and it works. It's similar to the Kansas City Royals, where it was 2015. They relied heavily on their bullpen, and they just let them kind of take over early if they had a lead and ride them out. And it worked well. So if their bats can be up to par, which they haven't been phenomenal, but they've been very solid, and they've won a lot of games because of it. If guys like Tyler Glasnow, Charlie Morton, Blake Snell really step up in their starting staff, I think the Rays could win this. It's really all up to if the Dodgers' star power comes through.
Mm.
If those guys that I mentioned ball out, if they're able to be successful, because it's one team that built a great farm system, found the unappreciated talent like the Tyler Glasnows of the world, and then developed them. And then on the other side, it's the team that's always been good in the Dodgers that decides, hey, you know what, we want Mookie Betts, so we're going to trade for him and then give him a massive extension. And we got Cody Bellinger, we got Justin Turner. We have all of the talent in the world.
Enormous talent, yeah.
I think I feel like starting pitching is going to be really interesting for the series because Clayton Kershaw has had his struggles in the playoffs. And Walker Buehler's been solid, but he hasn't been phenomenal in this playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a little more confident with Tampa Bay. I'm going to pick them.
You're going to pick Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
Just to be on the other side of you.
Okay.
Because we're only at a two-man show now, so we got to evenly represent in the World Series. I think it's obviously hard. It has to be mentally hard on the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
Just going to the World Series and losing or always falling short in the playoffs. So that has to be mentally frustrating for them, especially when you look at this team that's young and that's exciting and everybody's excited about in Tampa Bay. Coming to play you, and they're kind of fresh. They're new to the scene in terms of success. That's got to be all factoring in. But for the Dodgers, I think, like you said, just their talent is so immense and their talent is just so deep. And you got to feel like they got to break one some point. And I think this is the season for them to break one. So as much as I would love to see Tampa Bay win, because I'm all for it, I'm picking the Dodgers in 6 or 7.
And it's been kind of two teams with similar paths so far. I mean, Dodgers completely dominated the first 2 rounds, and then they struggled a lot to the Braves.
Yeah.
Braves went up 3-1. It looked like they were going to close that series out. Then we see the Dodgers come back. The Braves are still up in Game 7, 3-2. Cody Bellinger comes up clutch, and they win that game.
What a hit.
Then on the other side, you got the Rays where they dominate their wild card series. Then it looks like, all right, maybe the Yankees might take care of them. They go out and beat the Yankees, who they had their number the entire regular season. And then they go up on the Astros. They go up 3-0. You think they're going to win the series, and then
Astros almost come back.
Astros come back. the difference is that the Rays were able to pull it off. I trust certain sort of things like having reliable pitching late in games, because that we saw with the Nationals was a concern last year, but they were able to patch it together, and that's why they won, because they had all the other pieces around. I do have major concerns though about this Dodgers team, because they're very hit and miss. Like, if their bats are going, they're going to be fine. If Mookie, Cody, they're all fine. If their pitching's going, same thing. But they could easily bust, and we've seen it in past playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think in the playoffs, you're going to need to have offense. You're going to need to have those bats going. So obviously, you want that from the Dodgers. And I think it's important that you bring up pitching, because, I mean, we've seen that in so many different World Series, how important that is. Because, I mean, it's just you have to be so good in the World Series to win. Spotlight's on. The World Series is like, I'm not a huge baseball fan, but it always seems like the World Series is just so electric. Yeah. It's one of those times. It's one of my favorite sporting championships.
Playoff baseball is different.
It's very intense.
Every pitch is it's so intense that a 70 pitch outing feels like 100 pitches in the regular season.
Exactly.
Because you're draining all your energy into getting the exact location right, trying to confuse batters, and then on the flip side, you're just trying to keep up, and there's that back and forth that's so like magnetic, and it's just all there. Yeah,
I love it. I love the energy. I love everything, but I'm confident in my pick that the Dodgers are going to take it. I hope for them. I know it's been a long last half decade for them in terms of
more than that.
A little. Yeah.
Well, they haven't won a World Series in like 30 years, I think.
It's wild. Couldn't be me in the Cubs.
Yeah, I could.
Short memories, but yeah, I mean, it'll be exciting. They start tomorrow, and we'll obviously keep you covered in that for the next week and a half, as long as they're playing. Did you see the thing? Joe Buck is calling either an NFL game or a World Series game every day of this week.
Really?
How good do you have to be?
Yeah, and Fox does rely on him a lot.
Yeah, it's wild because, like, I mean,
I'm surprised he's calling the football game, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like they just give him one day off.
Yeah. Preparing for, like, games to call is just so much. You have to know so much about those teams. You have to be prepared to bring out information and analysis about all these things.
It's why Kevin Harlan really impresses me.
Kevin Harlan impresses me a lot,
TNT,
too.
basketball games back to back to back to back. And then he'll come for a football game on a Sunday and then go back to it.
It's wild. So it'll be good for the baseball series because you're only focusing on two teams. But then to call the Monday night game
no, he's going to call Sunday.
He called last night's game and then calling Thursday, right?
Oh, right, because Fox is doing Thursday night.
Mm-hmm. So, I think he called didn't he just call the Chiefs game?
Well, he's calling it right now.
Yeah. Right.
Because that should have been.
So the Fox Chiefs game, and then he's doing Thursday night. I don't know. All kudos to him. That is so the talent and preparation you need for that is crazy. But as we sit here in shortly over 24 hours, we are being blessed with another episode of The Bachelor. I'm excited. I think last week's episode was a little let down. I think some of the guys were just weird. Claire wasn't my favorite Bachelorette.
Yeah.
But as we're getting closer to it, they saw the previews. I'm very excited for where this season heads.
It's good. There should be like a countdown for when it all goes down, because it is going to happen. It feels like based on the previews we've seen, something big is going to happen soon. And boy, oh boy.
I'm excited. What do you think? Do you think the drama starts this week, or do you think it's just like another fluff episode?
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a filler episode, like setting up for next week. Where I mean, it's got to be within like 2-3 weeks when
you got it. If they're teasing it like this, like you got to assume it's going to be happening early.
Yeah, because this isn't like a week 6 thing. It seems like you won't even get to like the travel part. Of
Right. Which will be interesting how they do that. I'm excited to see how they handle dating in the.
My guess is they don't do it.
Yeah, I'm sure they just go to like private islands or something like.
Oh, that's actually not a terrible idea.
So it'll be wild. But yeah, I think for the most part of this episode, we get a little bit of fluff, and then at the end, they try to pull some stuff. And
I want Blake to get some love. That's what I want.
Yeah.
He got really.
I feel so
really,
bad for my mans, bro. I feel so bad for my
He should have got that first impression.
He should have. And if you're not on Team Blake, what's the other guy's name? I forget his name.
Dale?
Dale. Like, I understand you had that connection, but you had
like Easy.
Yeah, you had a better connection with Dale, or with Blake. So I don't know. We're excited. Gabby and Josh will obviously hit you guys with that tomorrow, right before the show begins. But yeah, join us back on Wednesday. We're gonna deep dive this Illinois Wisconsin football game.
We got to see if we can get Gabby on for the first 10 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, we'll work some stuff out. I want to see her analysis of it. But yeah, for me, for Nithin, this has been Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU.